God, I see God. Welcome, Internet, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me once again. A while back, I posted my top 10 Frank Zappa albums, the ones released during his lifetime, my top 10 out of the approximately 60 that he released. And so right now, we're discussing each one individually, and we're at number two. We're only in it for the money. Yeah, I could write, someone should write, maybe they have, I don't know, a book about this album. This might be Frank's, like, obviously I ranked it number two, so I think something is better than this. But it might be Frank's grandest achievement, like in pop culture. He did include sort of, if you bought the album, the back, I think it's the back cover of the actual album, maybe it's the inside cover, is sort of a mockery of Sergeant Pepper's, where he has, the cardboard cutouts and the bands in the picture, and it's that Sergeant Pepper sort of motif. Because this is really just, there's no guitar solos on this album. There's no space jams. There's no jazz jams. It does close with like 6.5 minutes of chaotic percussive noise, horns playing these long drawn out ugly chords. There's a Kafka story you're supposed to read before you listen to the last track to just further mess with your mind. But everything else on this album are these really incredible pop nuggets. Like, I think the longest song on here is like 3.5 minutes long, and even that is interspersed with burps and noises and snorks and all this other stuff. This is Frank going into the studio with about 35 minutes of just amazing pop music. These little nuggets of songs. Some are like 30 seconds long. Some are like a minute and a half. Some are abruptly edited and cut off and go into something else. I mean, it's like in a way, he had all of this stuff, and then he just kind of jigsaw puzzled it together. He's got spoken pieces that connect them. Eric Clapton shows up on this album, only he doesn't play guitar. He says, God, God, I see God. It is just this just near perfect collection of songs, and the production and the editing is amazing. It's one album, one LP, two sides. The lyrics are very socially relevant to the 60s. I mean, there's commentaries on, college students fighting the police. There's a lot of satire about hippies and stuff like that. But at the same time, there is a hardcore, even though there's a satirical element. Frank Zappa was ahead of the Mothers, who were freaks, who were also kind of like, people pointed their fingers at them and called them names. And, so I think there's Frank's mocking them, but I think there's also some sort of like, I recognize who you are, and there's a shared love there. So there's love in this album, oddly enough. But it's one of those things you almost have to listen for yourself to truly, truly appreciate how amazing it is. Like, it starts off with a little spoken word thing, where the producer is in the studio, like whispering about something. Then it goes into a song, and then there's more whispers throughout, and it's just this like this chaotic album. I remember I had a cassette tape that had Hot Rats on one side and this album on the other. And we drove to Vegas once to see the Grateful Dead back in the 90s. And I was driving home after the show. So it's like 4 a.m. We're driving through the California desert. And I played Hot Rats first, which has 5 songs. They're longer. They have grooves. You can nod your head and fall asleep to them if you're tired enough at 4 a.m. in a car after a Dead show. And nobody had any complaints while I was playing Hot Rats. But as soon as I put on We're Only in It for the Money, like, everybody was awake and really upset, because I think the longest there's ever a groove is about 3.5 minutes, somewhere towards the middle of side 1. I think Absolutely Free, which is one of the songs, and then Flower Punk are like the longest back-to-back sequence of music without like these really harsh edits. But anyways, there's a lot of amazing songs on here that would appear throughout Frank's career. The Idiot Bastard Son is on here. A whole bunch of songs that the Flo and Eddie band used to do. Concentration Moon, Mom and Dad. What else? Take Your Clothes Off When You Dance is on here, which would later get done as an instrumental by, I think, this fall 78, the Halloween show, the Halloween 78 shows. But anyways, yeah, it's just... it's a word. It's an album that it leaves me at a loss for words. But it was Frank's fourth album, released back in '68. Um, and it's just, yeah, it's an absolutely, it is his response to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, in that sense. If Frank were to respond to the Beatles, if he were actually paying attention, which he obviously was enough to recognize the album cover, but this is sort of his response, his most like song oriented, straightforward album, and there's nothing song oriented or straightforward in this. It is one of the pinnacles of his entire career. The only other album I think is better is the one that came not immediately following this. He had a couple more. He had Cruisin' with Reuben and the Jets, but then his next Full Mother's release after this was Uncle Meat, which is my number one, which is next. But that's another highly edited thing. But yeah, I'm rambling here because this album is like, just, you have to listen to it. Seek it out, find it, enjoy it. It is darn near perfect. Frank Zappa's We're Only in It for the Money, my number two favorite album. Enjoy.